everyone. I'm John Evans, and welcome to another episode of One-on-One. John Isley is part of one of the longest-running partnerships in broadcasting, radio or TV. Now, you might know him better as John Boy from the syndicated John Boy and Billy Big Show. Isley and his partner Bill James met in 1980, and they're still together today, waking people up with laughter on radio stations all across the country and all around the world. When Isley is away from the studio, there's a pretty good chance you'll find him in Wrightsville Beach, a place his family has visited since well before the big show began. And that's where we caught up with him. And I got a chance to talk with him about how he got his start in the business, the crew that helps produce that big show magic, and how much longer the big show will go on. John Isley, better known as John Boy from the John Boy and Billy Big Show. Welcome to the One-on-One with John Evans podcast.
John, good to be here, buddy.
It's good to see you again. It's been a long time since we talked to you, but you come down here to Wrightsville Beach often, don't you? You love it down here.
Yes, I do. I've loved it since actually in the 70s. My wife's father used to have a convention at the Blockade Runner, so she knew it growing up. And so I followed her down here. She actually got a job. She was coaching the women's basketball team at UNC Wilmington for 2 years. So when I would get fired, I'd sneak down here and hang out, which happened twice.
Yeah.
So I fell in love with it.
You and I first met years and years ago. You were kind enough to come down after Hurricane Fran, and you helped us out with a fundraiser to help some of the victims. But wasn't Wilmington one of the first locations that actually syndicated the John Boy and Billy Big Show when you guys went syndication?
It was, John. It was actually third. Greenville, South Carolina was first, then Newbern, North Carolina. SFL were still on that station. And then, then Wrightsville Beach. Chuck Sullivan, my man, was running the station back then. So,
yeah, Chuck was at the Hawk, and you were one of the Grand Marshals at the Azalea Festival Parade. So not only do you come down here just to relax, you also come down here for business.
Yes, absolutely. It was fun. I remember that was they always get on me about giving bad quotes. And when I was the Grand Marshal, actually, I got to be a celebrity there for a couple of years in a row. They told me that never happened before. So, but I had a good run of a couple of years. And then in the paper, I was saying, I just love to come down here and get away. I hate people. I hate flowers. And they put that in the paper. I said, well, that's my humor, I'm telling them.
When the coronavirus pandemic came out, Johnny, and really started to hit, did you all talk about whether you should work at the station or whether you should work at home? Because I've heard you talk since about how important it is to you to try to get people to smile, to try to get some sense of normalcy in people's lives. But did you have those discussions before coming back?
Yes, absolutely. Randy, our producer, a very anal human being, he laid out a 5-level step program to what we could do to how we would keep running. And it went all the way to level 5. If I got sick and couldn't make it, then we wouldn't come in. But I had 4 levels. If Billy already good, and I was still in. But everything's been good so far, just with our on-air crew. We've all been able to go in and do that. Yeah, that's what we figure. So I got papers from FEMA that says I'm essential. So, okay, what are we essential at? Let's see if we can make somebody smile during this crap.
But Jackie, I talked to Jackie this week, and she said you all were sick before this. So you think you may have actually had it beforehand?
I think I really did. My middle son works for NASCAR, and he came home with something late January. Then I got it. My wife got it. And sick for a couple of weeks, upper respiratory thing. And then, we actually think we might have had it. But my wife was going to go get tested. And I said, don't do that, because if you get tested, then I got to go get tested. Let's just think we've already had it. Be safe. We'll be all right.
What precautions do you take in the studio every day?
Randy wipes it down with his solution of cleanser every morning before we get there. And this just us wash our hands when we get in, the usual stuff.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, we're space. We can have the distance so people can see we're 6 feet apart or whatever.
How amazed are you, John, that you and Billy are still together 40 years after teaming up? Careers come and go in the industries that we're in, whether it be journalism or radio or whatever. But 40 years, that's an unbelievable run of success.
It really is, and John, and you know that you've been lucky enough to be able to find a good home, and it's just worked out wonderfully. And usually with teams, radio or whether it's Dean Martin or Jerry Lewis, they usually end bad for some reason. But Billy and I, we've been on the same page since the get-go, and we're totally opposite. I think that helps. We don't spend much time together out of the studio. Billy's a worker, but yeah, we've just had a great relationship, and it's really, really been blessed to get together with that partner.
How did it come to be?
Well, Bob Kagan, who was a program director, I told you earlier I got fired twice. He's the one that fired me twice when I was working in Knoxville, Tennessee as a night jock. And then the second time I got fired, I went up to Charleston, West Virginia, and worked there nights for about 6 months. And the guy who fired me was up for a job in Charlotte. And the program director of the Charleston station I was at was up for that same job, which was WBCY in Charlotte in 1980. If my Charleston, my new PD, would have got it, he was going to take me to do nights. Bob got it, and he said, I want you to do mornings. And I said, I don't know if I can be funny in the mornings. He said, if you promise me you'll be there, let's see how it works. I said, all right, I promise you that. So, and he had found Billy had applied for the same job. And Billy put a little fake commercial on the end of his tape. And that's what caught Bob's ear. It was very funny. So he hired Billy to do production. And then when I would get off the air, we would get together and write and do something. So in about a year and a half since then, 80, Billy came on full time on the air with me. And it's gone from that. And the thing about it, Bob Kagan, he got a job in Washington. So, and he died early, had a heart condition he never knew. He was 30 years old, and he was working on bringing us up there to Washington. So he never got to see what he put together, how we've been blessed over the years.
Did you have a time as that partnership developed? I know you went to the classic rock station in '86, but when did you have an idea that your partnership with Billy was going to allow you to maybe do something long lasting?
It was like when I left BCY there in '86, Billy stayed on, and I had to set out a no compete clause in my contract, which was 9 months. Meanwhile, the station, the Fox, came on, going to classic rock, and they hired me to do mornings when my no compete, and I said, you gotta bring Billy too. You gotta have Billy. We gotta have him. So they went and hired him as well when my no compete clause. So I knew from there we kicked it in, started syndicating in '93. So just kind of always knew that I needed my partner Billy.
Was there a time when you realized that through syndication you might be able to go outside of Charlotte? I mean, obviously, as soon as you got on the Fox station, your success started to grow. But when was the idea that, hey, maybe we can do this just outside the Charlotte market?
Well, I tell you what, Mel Karmazin, who is a big name in media, of course, he had Howard Stern. And it was Mel Karmazin actually approached me and said, I want to syndicate you guys out of Atlanta. He said, you'd be the Southern Howard Stern. We're totally different. Our shows are totally different. But
right.
He wasn't trying to make us into Stern. He figured we could do the syndication out of Atlanta and have us on. So we were talking about that, and our current owner, Richie Balspa, then out of Boston, he said, you don't have to go to Atlanta. Let's do it here in Charlotte. We'll do it right out of here. So in '93, we did that out of Charlotte. So never had to move, which was just worked out great. And we were the first show actually to include music. first syndicated show. So
Right.
everything else was talk, Stern and all those guys. And well, so we had a music format to deliver a morning show.
But
So
then you taken the next step in your syndication. You syndicated as classic rock, but then, I've talked to Randy about this when I met him in Charlotte years and years ago. He developed, if I'm not mistaken, the technology that allowed you to do it without music, to let the stations put their own music in it.
yes, that evolved into that. Sure did.
And
Sure
that
did.
just allowed you to be on every kind of station then, right?
That's right. Yeah, format does not matter. The program director plugs in their music.
The characters, John, how did they develop? Did you have an idea for a Mr. Rhubarb or Mad Max or Married Man? Did they develop over time?
Yes, we would have the premise right off the bat. It was after a Mad Max was one. It was a prank call that somebody did using that voice to one of the jocks, a friend of ours. And I said, man, I love that. And I was just thinking about, yeah, this is perfect, the perfect character to do that. So it grew over the years, everything. He's mad, but we had the format for that. And then Married Man, that was us just talking about, being married, and there's got to be something there, and we need a superhero. So that was our deal. Mr. Rhubarb, I've been doing him since the 70s when I was a night jock. I'd take off on Mr. Rogers. So he's been with me the longest.
Yeah. Now, and I've told you before that I've listened for a long, long time, and I
Yes,
know
sir.
the new bits come in the 7:30 half hour, and then you replay them at different times a couple days afterwards. How long out do you program to put a new bit in? Is it finishes on Thursday, you put it in Friday, or how far ahead do you plan?
It's up to all of us, but we know that we want to have at least 2 or 3 new bits in the hole. So when the writing and the recording, if it gets behind, you got to know, and it has, come down to the last day, but we got to have something brand new every morning, like I said, between 7:30 and 8.
Yep.
So that's what we do.
Yeah, and it's amazing that I just didn't know if that was something that was, you need, pillars to do one bit, and then you do one, and then Billy does one. I didn't know how far in advance you played it, because it sounds like it's off the cuff. It sounds like it's so natural, like it may be something you thought in your head, and then 30 minutes later you put that in your show.
Right. But it is prepared, and of course it has to be now the way we send it out. Used to, I'd turn on a reel-to-reel tape during the song and do a bit and talk back to myself, after the song ended. But those was good old days.
Can you imagine now, with the crew you have, can you imagine doing the show without, obviously, Billy, or without Jackie behind you, or Jeff, or Marcy, or anybody else who's a part? I know you had Rayford, and unfortunately he passed, and I know that Terry retired. But your core group, can you imagine doing your show now without any of them?
No, I really can't. Really can't. I mean, even like when one's not there, when Marcy is not there, and then Jackie has to do her job, and we'd have to do that. Everything is so, everybody knows their parts. It really does. And you take one out, and it throws the whole thing off kilter. So no, I really can't. We've just got the best crew, and over the years we've got them, and they say they live to make my life easy.
Well, Jackie is one.
Jackie. She's
Yeah. Well,
you talking about one I couldn't do without. I can't. I said, Billy, I can do without you before I can do without Jackie. So
she calls herself John Girl because she basically handles everything. How did you and Jackie first meet?
Her brother Dale Curry got traded to the Charlotte Hornets. She moved down to help him with Steph, who turned into quite a basketball player.
Yeah.
Her nephews Steph and Seth. And so I remember them running around the station. So anyway, she was hired as a receptionist for us at the Fox when our studios were downtown Charlotte. So she was just there, and she would come and she would stand at the door and watch us. She just was fascinated with it. Then she was there a few years. the general manager, who was Jack Daniels at the time, she became his secretary. Then when we syndicated, we needed a producer. And Randy was another one of his great ideas. He said, Jackie, she knows nothing about radio. You can train her exactly what you do. And that was her producing syndicated since day one. It was the best call ever.
Yeah, and we got to spend a little bit of time when she came down here for the fishing tournament this year. And she really, boy, she is a salesman for John, Boy, and Billy. She really talks about it all the time.
She is one of the most upbeat, terrific people I've ever got to know. She's wonderful.
Technology sure has changed since you started, John. Back then, when you used to do the carts that look like 8-track tapes, but not long ago, digital really allowed you to not have to go in every morning. You'd be able to record your shows on more of a regular schedule. If you still had to go in the mornings, do you think you'd still be on the air now?
Ooh, if my wife had anything to do with it, I would. She said, don't retire, you'll be useless. I said, I'm trying to be useless while I'm still working. That's my goal. So, but I don't know. That's a tough question, because I hadn't been ready to give it up. But boy, it has been nice not having to get up every morning, because I did that for 30 years. That's tough.
It drains on you. I mean, I had to do it a couple of weeks at a time early in my career doing TV, but I can't imagine getting up and being ready to go at 6:00 every morning for 4 hours.
Yeah, that was the goal, to be there for that. That was me calling Jackie, depending on how late I was running, play the Who are you? That's 8 minutes. I'll be there in 8 minutes. Free rides, 5 minutes. Give me free ride.
There you go.
I could call the songs by how long it takes to get there.
Now, what is your schedule like now? How many days you working still 5 days a week and then recording? Is that what it is?
We're doing that. We're just it's a schedule, however, that best meets our needs to do it. Usually if we double up, we can get finished before the whole 5-day work week.
Gotcha. Being inducted into the North Carolina Broadcasters Hall of Fame, what did that mean to you as someone who has just done broadcasting for so long, but also has just trumpeted North Carolina for so long?
I tell you, that was very awesome, John. Sure was, man. So, all right, I got in a club with Andy Griffith and Arthur Smith and Charles Carrault. I never would have thought that when I was back at BAG. I'm going to be in the North Carolina Broadcasting Hall of Fame with Andy Griffith. It was very, very awesome and humbling, You look back after this.
Could you have ever thought that when you were pumping gas in Graham, North Carolina?
No, it took me. I was in the oil business. I started out, then I went to the movie business.
Right. Selling tickets.
Running a projector, Grand Cinema after pump gas. Yeah. Then radio. Yeah.
So you've had a career in high profile, right?
Yeah, that's right.
What makes you laugh, John?
Just I guess good humor. TV these days, the way TV does not make me laugh, it's different. I don't know. It's going for the talk about Andy Griffith. The Andy Griffith Show still makes me laugh. That's the kind of humor that I like. It's built in a story. It's not going for a joke. They're not going for a punchline, or that happens along the way. Doing it without being dirty. That seems to be cheap shots of sex sales and all that. But yeah, just have a different things. Changed over the years.
It has. Who's one person you've wanted to have on your show that you haven't yet?
Don Knotts. I did not have him. I had about everybody else. I talked to Andy on the phone, so he was technically on the show, but everybody else I got hooked up with the Mayberry days that they would do, Mount Pilot. So with Helen Crump, Thelma Lou, Ernest T., Otis, got to hang out, took Otis to the racetrack with us. Now that was a fun afternoon when Otis Campbell entertained everybody. Oh boy.
I actually had the chance to meet Andy Griffith not long after I arrived in Wilmington. I went up to when he was still shooting Matlock here, and went up to the studio and had the chance to interview him. And that was a highlight. He was just as genuine off screen as he was on screen.
That's great. He loved the coach too, didn't he?
Yeah, but he was genuine, very nice to, obviously I didn't know my way around, was very nice in introducing me to everybody. It was a lot of fun. I think I know the answer to this next question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Who's one person that you did have on that you wish you hadn't invited?
Oh, what is the guy that writes?
Tom Clancy?
Yes, yeah, Tom Clancy. That's good, John.
I knew that one.
What a jerk.
Yeah, he wasn't very kind when you came when he came on your show, because he was pushing a book, and then actually ripped North Carolina, didn't he?
Yeah, it was something like that. We have no problem with self-depreciating humor. Well, he said, "Oh, you do read. You read a book. It's a book. Do you read down there?" Yeah, I've read a book. Yeah, he was really kind of mean. And the other one that never made it on the show, but I'm glad he didn't, was Bill Maher. He was another one. He was like on his phone. He requested an interview doing a show somewhere riding from the airport, and just got crappy on the phone and hung up before we even went on the air. I don't have time for this. So I don't know. He's not my kind of guy anyway, I don't guess.
Yeah.
But I like Tom Clancy's stuff. I like the way he writes.
Yeah, you just didn't. That interview just didn't go as well as you thought it was going to.
No, it didn't go well.
You do an awful lot for charity, John. I know that you've helped out with the Captain Eddie Hanneman fishing tournament for years down here in Wrightsville Beach. I know you've done a lot of stuff for the Down Syndrome Association. What makes you get involved with an event? I mean, I imagine there's a lot of people coming to you and to the show all the time, but what makes it that John gets involved?
It's just if I can, for something that do get approached and something that's dear to the heart. Obviously I can't do everything, but stuff that matters, and I will participate. Of course, with my third son, Matthew, is Down syndrome, so that got me involved with that, seeing the plight of the other kids in the community, like that. So when something personally touches you like that, you see people who've lost a loved one or something tragic, and they use it for the opportunity they have to make something good out of it.
Yeah, and I've got a special needs nephew, and I never realized about autism before Anthony came into our lives. So it was an opportunity for me to grow and learn. I imagine the same thing for you with Maddie.
Absolutely, sure enough. And by the way, you mentioned that. I got to say hey to Patrick, our #1 fan. I know who's going to watch this because he records every show, driving his mama crazy. He's like 30 now. He started coming in the studio when he was like 10. He was just fascinated with the big show and me, so he's been coming in all these years. He's going crazy with this lockdown, him not being allowed in the studio right now. So shout out to Mama Rose and Patrick, our #1 fan, and we'll see you soon to get him back in the studio.
I didn't know he had time riding around with Ike all the time. I couldn't. He's always with Ike, isn't he?
So, that's neat.
Is there anything you want to do with the show that you haven't had the chance to do yet? I mean, let's see. You went overseas. You went to the Olympics. You went to the White House. You've done it on location. Where would you like to go maybe that you haven't had the chance?
I'm good. I'm good. I really can't think of anywhere that I would really like to. I'm just, now the way it is, I'm just enjoying it so much. And with this, and it's, we used to, every year we'd look forward to going broadcasting from Universal for the Daytona 500, and years like we did travel around. And it looks like, things probably changed for that and a lot of different businesses and a lot of stuff now, whether we have anything to do. But yeah, I'm pretty satisfied looking back. It's nothing I really think of right now.
What was it like in the Isley household growing up? Did you have an idea what you wanted to do at a young age? When did you realize radio was for you?
I was a junior in high school, and I could get Graham, North Carolina, and I could get WLS radio, AM radio out of Chicago. And I loved John Records Landecker. John Records Landecker Records truly is my middle name, WS, walking up music. And for some reason, I just loved that. And I would imitate him walking up songs and like that. And it's just, I would really, that's when I just thought about it. And then when I was a senior, we got a brochure from the Professional Academy of Broadcasting from Knoxville. I knew I didn't want to go to college. I didn't have the courses for it. I think my senior year, I had to graduate basic English to graduate. And like the story, I would read, what do y'all want to do today? Let Johnny Isley read us a story. So I'd read the class stories. And it so happened that my English teacher was charging a play. So she asked me, would I come out for the high school play? It was Rock Hudson and Doris Day Pillow Talk. Of course, I landed the part of Rock Hudson.
Of course you did.
And the girl, Sharon Elwood, who was in it with me, she was dating a disc jockey who was at the station in Burlington. And it just kind of all come together. And I saw their brochure, go get a license. I said, that's what I'm going to do. So Mom and Daddy paid $1,200 to get me into that broadcasting school.
Nice.
Did that, came back, and got my first job at that same station running Sunday morning tapes. That was my foot in the door, and that was it.
I remember the first time when I started in radio when I was 15, and they told me they didn't need me. They would, if they needed me again, they would call me. And I was devastated. I thought my career was over at 15. Did you maybe think your career was over once or twice, getting ready to hang it up and try to do something?
You know, like I said, I've only been fired twice by the same guy, and he hired me the third time. So I kind of always, you know, I've not a big ego, but I just didn't think like that.
Yeah. I mean, I got another job within a week at an FM station not far away. So, I mean, I was in radio and then got into TV through college. But, you know, I'm like you. I kind of knew what I wanted to do in my life, and I've been blessed to be able to do it for almost 37 years now.
That is awesome, John. You got that right, buddy. We're two that it doesn't happen a lot in our business that we've been able to do.
And I know that a big reason for my success is the woman I married. How about you? We hear every once in a while on the air about your wife, but getting up in the morning for 30 years and traveling the way you did, tell us about her and how much she means to you and how much she's meant to your success.
Yeah. Oh, well, she's everything. I mean, when I passed her in the hallway in high school, she was a junior then. I was a sophomore. And I had to chase her for a while. So she didn't know, but we started dating. She went off to Appalachian State College. I finished my senior year of high school, and then we were still together in different places. You know, I was coming up in radio, and she was, like I said, she got job coached some and actually came down here. And we got married in 1980, had our honeymoon at the Blockade Runner. So, and of course, through everything, she's been a rock.
Yeah, and it's difficult when you have to. I tell people, had it not been for Sheila and the things that she has really kind of given up to allow me to do what I've been allowed to do, I wouldn't near be as successful on air and as a dad.
Oh, absolutely, and Eve too. I mean, I gave her 3 boys right off. They're all like within right around 3.5 years of each other. Their hands full of being a wonderful mom. But yeah, proud of our kids and what she's done. Yes, awesome. It's very important to have a home life like that.
And none of my kids ever wanted to do broadcasting. I know your boys work for NASCAR, if I'm not mistaken. Did they ever have an inkling of radio, and did you say, no, go somewhere else?
No, you know, they never did. If they would express how to get it, but it's something that's tough to hand down, the family business, you know, like that. They're very bright, and they're always a natural. Of course, they've been on the air since they were little kids. They sit on my lap, you know, but never showed interest in that. One NASCAR and one's working for Wells Fargo now downtown. Went back and got his MBA from Wake Forest at 30 years old. So
nice.
Proud of you. Driven. Takes after his mom.
I know you've been asked this, and I know your time is very valuable. How long are you going to keep doing this, John? I mean, you said you have the schedule now that allows you to do it a little bit more. You sound, at least to me and a lot of your listeners, that you're still having a blast every day.
Yes, sure am. And as long as we can do it, we will do it. You know, it's different times like this. It's affecting the advertising, and our contract happens to be up at the end of this year. So negotiating with Julie Talbot at a Premier Networks owns our syndication, and they're the largest in the country. Rush
right.
Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Steve Harvey, you know, the whole deal. So they're the top, the best there is. And we managed to keep our family together. I mean, not just the on-air folks, but Cookie, our bookie, Marty, Barry,
Lowe, everybody,
Barbara, our receptionist, and and we put them under our contract, my contract. So it's really different the way we've been able to do things in this business. Got my Eddie Lowe, my best friend since third grade, is just a whiz, unbelievable. He started out doing my contracts, and now he handles everything else. And he works with Julie up in New York, and he's not even an employee of the Premier or that, but he handles me and us, and with that. So it's just to say that we get the money right, as long as we can protect, you know, people, and how we can keep everybody together. But they're looking at different numbers. It might be a different time now with, you know, how advertising is this affected. We got to see how we come out of this.
Yeah, well, I know that millions of people all across the country hope that it continues for a long, long time. And please pass along everybody's best to Billy and Jackie and Jeff and Marcy and Randy and everybody else, because you have made a lot of people smile for a long time. But I think, and I don't know if you agree with this may be the most important time to make people smile every day because of what we're going through.
It really is. It really is. And you kind of, after you've been doing it a while, you kind of take it for granted. But to hear from folks and that, and there's, I mean, it really is. It really is. Right now is the most important time as ever. I mean, after 9/11, and we, you know, of course, support our military and do that. But this is so different. People are isolated.
Yeah, it is. John, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're on vacation, and I appreciate you sparing some time. I've wanted to do this for a long time. I'm glad we got the chance, because I think people want to know a little bit about what makes John Boy tick, and we gave him a little bit today, but a lot of people know you're a good man, and we appreciate your time.
I enjoyed it, John. Thank you very much, and thank you for all your help over the years. We saved Cobb Melton from getting kicked out underneath the bridge.
We did that, and we helped a lot of people with the Eddie Hanneman fishing tournament every year. And
thank you for covering that as well. Absolutely, buddy.
I'll continue to do that every year as long as they keep asking me. John, best of luck, and we hope to talk to you again soon. Thanks again.
Thanks, John. I'd love to do it again soon. Let's do it again.
I want to say a big thank you to John Isley for sparing some of his vacation time and joining us for this week's podcast interview. The Big Show has its own podcast. It's called the Late Risers Podcast, where you can get a condensed version of the show. All of the contests, all of the characters, all of the laughs, without the music. You can find it on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and other podcast apps. And if you want to follow all of the goings-on with The Big Show, all you have to do is go to thebigshow.com. Now, before we go, I'd like to ask you a favor. Please download and subscribe to the One-on-One with John Evans podcast on whatever app you use to listen to your favorite shows. And if you would be so kind, please leave us a rating or a review. The more feedback we have from people like you, the higher we'll be listed on the apps, and the better chance we'll have of bringing in even more new listeners. I'm John Evans. Thanks so much for joining us for this week's episode of One-on-One.